Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Omni Hotel for the 48th Annual St. Patrick's Day Luncheon, hosted by the Edgerley family, Boys and Girls Club of South Boston. Give yourselves a big round of applause for coming out. Let's hear it. Before we get started, a big round of applause for all the men and women who are graciously serving us our delicious lunch today. A big round of applause for all of them. They're all their hard work. And without further ado, before we get started, someone who usually kicks off this luncheon, he's a friend to so many across the city of Boston and beyond. He's someone, when we opened up Laugh Boston across the street 10 years ago, he was the first person, he was actually the first performer on the stage at Laugh Boston, and he gave special dispensation for all the jokes that would be told there forevermore. We might need a renewal on that. He is just a wonderful, extraordinary human being, and we're so honored to have him here to do our invocation. Ladies and gentlemen, a big South Boston welcome to Father Joseph White.
Thank you, John. As we gather together and bring cares and concerns and all that's brought together from the Boys and Girls Clubs, and particularly here in South Boston, for a long time, 1940s. And we bring together all those prayers. I just left a group of priests at Gate of Heaven. They're gathering for a day of prayer, and none of them are eating meat today, folks. But you get to eat meat because Cardinal Cushing gave dispensation to South Boston forever. And so I will give dispensation for the bad jokes. John, as we come together, let's pray. Let's pray for Jack, who's receiving an award today. Congratulations. For his family, for the other 200 or so that are connected with the young people at the club, and all that's brought together. We ask blessings on those needs around us. Our world is troubled, Lord, and we bring together prayers and cares. We pray for our community, our city, our nation, our society. And on this evacuation day and St. Patrick's Day celebration, we give thanks for so many who support and who administer at the club and for the club, those who volunteer, and so much that's brought together for the lives, for young people, and we pray the continuation in those blessings and in different faiths and cultures and backgrounds as we bring together our prayers. As a Catholic Christian, I pray and we pray through Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns forever and ever. Amen. Bless you.
Thank you, Father Joe White. I mentioned the hardworking men and women in this room. Also, there's another group of hardworking guys over here in the corner who are here year in and year out. They do music, Irish music, 24 hours a day throughout the month of March, and we're lucky to have them here again. Curra's Fancy. Gentlemen. It is now my great honor to introduce somebody who is literally given his life to improve the lives of people, of kids, particularly kids, all across this great city of ours throughout his entire life. No matter what stripe they are, what color they are, what ethnicity they are, what background they have. This gentleman has always led whatever organization he's at, whether he's created its own or someone's been lucky enough to get him to lead their boards. He's someone throughout his whole life who has dedicated himself to improving the lives of kids and their families, and we're so lucky to have him as the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Boston. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our friend Robert Lewis Jr.
John, thank you. And before we get started, I want to bring up our executive director and Josh Davis. He's going to say a few words before me. But we're very excited about Josh's leadership and his work here at the South Boston Club, and looking forward to a lot of great things moving forward. So Josh, I'll jump in right after you.
Thank you, Robert, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Josh Davis, and I am the proud Executive Director of the Edgerley Family South Boston Boys and Girls Club. It's my honor to welcome all of you to the 48th Annual St. Patrick's Day Luncheon, a long-standing tradition celebrating the St. Patrick's Day's festivities in and around South Boston. Although the neighborhood may have changed since I started my Boys and Girls Club career at the South Boston Club in 2001, what remains consistent is the impact and the influence that the club had and continues to have on generations of South Boston youth and families. And for an institution like the Boys and Girls Club that's been in South Boston for 85 years, we remain committed to honoring and celebrating the history and tradition of such a proud community. It was about this time last year that I stood on this very podium introducing myself as the new executive director just 2 months into the job. As I reflect back on my first year, the experiences and memories are far too many to share with you this afternoon. However, we have several Boys and Girls Club staff members here with us today, each of whom plays a critical role in providing meaningful and often life-changing experiences for our members. Stephanie, Sevi, and Brady, 3 full-time program managers, in addition to their day-to-day responsibilities, spent their February vacation with a group of club members at the Joe Dodge Lodge, introducing our members to the outdoors with activities like skiing, snow tubing, and even sleeping in cabins. Our preteen manager, Shanta, AKA Speedy, and if any of you have met Speedy, he certainly lives up to his nickname. He oversees our leadership program, Torch Club, instilling in our young people the idea of making a difference in our community through volunteering, fundraising, and organizing clothing drives for those less fortunate. Caroline Moreno, recently promoted to program director, is often the first staff that a new family or a new member meets upon coming in for orientation. Caroline knows every member's name, including their parents, their aunts, their uncles, and even their grandparents as well. I don't know how she does it. As soon as we get a phone call, Caroline just needs to simply look at caller ID and knows exactly who's ready to be dismissed. Our Director of Operations, Tim Bothwell, who could not be here with us today, has walked through the doors of the South Boston Club for nearly 40 years and now has 2 children of his own that attend the club. Tim is key in making sure that our building is accessible to the entire community, whether it be the St. Peter's School, accessing our gym, the Perkins School, celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month in our auditorium, the police department dive team, utilizing our pool for drills, and one of my favorite new programs, the South Boston Moms Club, who bring their toddlers into the building twice a week in the morning. These are the staff that I have the privilege of working with every day, who remain committed to making sure every day a member walks through the door is the best day that they've had that week. One additional staff member, Jen Nunez, is unable to join us today. Jen leads our job readiness program entitled Ready to Work. Jen facilitates weekly Ready to Work sessions, sharpening our teens' interview skills, resume writing, and networking. Upon completion of the Ready to Work program, our teens are placed in summer internship and job opportunities around the city. Jen is developing the next generation of a young, diverse, talented pipeline. Whether it's ensuring a 7-year-old is reading at grade level, facilitating a young men's and women's group to address mental health challenges, or attending Girls STEM Day at Gillette, the Boys and Girls Club is far more than gym and swim. Our goal is that every member that walks through the door, regardless of race, background, or economic status, is ready to take that next step in their lives. In a moment, you'll have a chance to hear from our South Boston Club Youth of the Year, Jack Thomas. Not only does Jack serve as a role model to our younger members, but he also embodies all of the qualities of a Boys and Girls Club member. Could not be more proud of you today, Jack. A special shout out to the Omni for our beautiful space, to all of our lead sponsors, And thank you to our local elected officials, Representative Beal, Senator Nick Collins, who could not be here with us today, Councilor Flynn, and Mayor Wu, who continue to advocate for the youth and families in South Boston and the city at large. We will be reaching out to each of you to expand our teen recruitment in the local housing developments, increase our community access during the morning at the club, and continue to be an anchor institution in South Boston. And last, but certainly not least, a special shout out to Patty McCormick. Patty's not here with us today, but there's no better advocate for the South Boston community than Patty, and we thank her for her decades of service to this event. Thank you all for being here, and I will now turn it over to the real MC for the afternoon, John Tobin.
Thank you, Josh. That was wonderful. I also want a big round of applause. I see some elected officials out there in the crowd. We have the Sheriff of Suffolk County, Steve Tompkins, is here at the UMass Boston table, my alma mater. John Fitzgerald, the newly elected city councilor from Dorchester, is here. Thanks, John. I already gave him a glowing introduction, and so he probably doesn't need it again. But ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Robert Lewis, Jr.
I do want to take the time and acknowledge John Tobin and just the work that he does, his leadership, not just up here and, getting this event moving, but John, just everything you do for young folks on behalf of this city of Boston. And what I love is that as John's over at Northeastern University, the great thing is we know where he is, so we can call and have access to the buildings, have access to the facilities, and John always answers the call for us. So John, as always, thank you so much. I'd be remiss if I also don't acknowledge our City Council President as well, Ruth Lee Lejeune, for being here with us again today as well. I'm going to be very quick because I really want folks to have a chance to hear from our Youth of the Year, Jack Thomas. When we start thinking about, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Boston, but really to start thinking about the evolution of the clubs in 1981, when it started to let girls as members into the clubs. And when you start thinking about all those years prior to that, we were the Boys Club, Boys and Girls Club. Now we're taking that next step as we're moving forward throughout our city of Boston and throughout Chelsea. One of the things that we're looking to do, we just embarked on this strategic strategy, and we reached out to parents, we reached out to community-based leaders, and just reaching out and really taking a look and saying, what is the next iteration of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Boston? And a lot of what we heard from a lot of folks were that, workforce and job readiness was a big deal. Health and wellness, a lot going on with mental health, social, physical, emotional health for our young folks was a big deal. But also, how do we support the mayor in her work and ambitions around academics and things of that nature? So what we are focusing on our strategic plan moving forward are those things. We're focusing on academics. We're focusing on equipping our young folks so they're skilled as well as educated for our local and regional economy. So you're going to see a lot more around this with our young folks, because the coolest thing is going to be one of the days when our young folks are also the sponsors of these tables. Right, Josh? You would like that. But before I move on, I'd love to just see a show of hands. How many folks in this room are alumni of either the South Boston Club or any club? I'd just love to see a show of hands. Wow. Wow, thank you, thank you. I want you to know, all of the alumni, what we're doing is we're building off of your history. We're building off your stories. We're building off everything that you brought to the clubs as we continue to move forward. We're at a moment right now, as we're all here today, and in supporting the great work that Josh and his team are doing every single day. But that can't happen without the sponsorship and the support, the leadership of our elected officials as well. And we know if we're going to continue to lead and lead in the future, lead at this moment for our young folks, it is going to be the collective action of all of us. So I'm excited, and blessed to be here, not just as the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs. And for Old Town old-time Southie folks, I hope it'll be okay. I'm an Eastie kid. Well, okay, I got one. But I grew up in the Salesians boys clubs at that time, so the role that the clubs played in my life to get me here today was because of so many folks like you that are in this room. So it is our time, and it's our moment to act, it's our moment to lead, it's our moment to continue to step up and support the work of Josh. But I'll tell you, one of the ways that we do that is the incredible young folks, and I'm going to bring up one. And his name is Jack Thomas, and he is the Youth of the Year award recipient. But before I bring up Jack, over the last couple of weeks, we were going through this process that each club is up front looking at who's their Youth of the Year representing their club, and then who's the Youth of the Year representing our boys and girls clubs, and then it goes so forth from Massachusetts and then nationally. I had a chance to spend a little time with Jack, and I want to just say this publicly because I know his mom is here. You have raised an incredible young man. I want to just say that, so thank you. And no, really. So I had a chance to speak to all of the Youth of the Year and incredible young folks. And then I go back into my office, and I see an envelope just on the front of my desk. And I'm like, huh. And I open up the envelope to read it. And I'm no disrespect to all our other Youth of the Year recipients, but I got a note from Jack Thomas. And Jack was thanking me for our work at the Boys and Girls Club. And I can't tell you what that meant to me, to hear from one of our young leaders, you know, in his leadership, in his work, and everything that he represents. Folks, we're gonna be in great hands. We're gonna be in great hands because we have leaders like Jack Thomas. Jack, please come up and join me. And for folks that have a chance to meet him, our Edgerley Club, South Boston Youth of the Year, Jack Thomas. Thank you so much.
So, wow. I have it right here. Use that one, yeah. Is this? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Well, my name is Jack Thomas. I've been a member of the South Boston Boys and Girls Club, also known as the Edgerley Family South Boston Boys and Girls Club, for over 8 years now, and I'm currently a teen associate in the computer clubhouse area of the club. The reason I come to the club every day is because of the relationships I built there and the staff. It's great. It's a great place to always just get my mind off the struggles of real life and just relax. While being at the club, my experience has been an integral part of my life, thanks to not only the help of countless staff I've met, but also my friends I've made, such as people like Jordan, Kevin, and James, and Brielle, who was last year's Youth of the Year for South Boston. I've developed a great relationship with the staff here, ranging from Mike and Jen, who work in the teen center, great people, I wish they're here right now, to, hold on, sorry, I'm not great, to our great guide me through club arms. There's also a relationship I have with Speedy right there, shout out to him. He's always a positive influence on everyone around him, preteens and teens alike. And then there's Stephanie right there as well. She's great. She helps me in computers. She's always there for me when I need her. And she's a great staff as well. Hold on, sorry. As mentioned before, I'm currently a teen associate in the computer clubhouse, and I enjoy being there because it's great to help the youth with technology and let them just have fun and be themselves. Also, I participate in Ready to Work, how would I describe it? A workforce readiness program where we just get ready for work. We learn about internships. We learn about how to dress properly, how to make sure we're good for interviews. It's amazing. Thank you. And once again, thank you, Mike and Jen, for hosting those programs. I also use back when I was a preteen, I used Torch Club Torch Club. It's something you give back to community with. You give it back to community. And it's amazing because we help people homeless people. We give cards for them. And then last year I was in Keystone. We went to Texas because of all our hard work for the community. And that was amazing because we met all the other Keystone members who also gave back to communities. And it's amazing. The reason these activities keep me coming back is because they let me engage with my community at the club and help my community with my charity. It makes me feel as though I was contributing something and leaving a positive impact on the people around me, which makes me happy. Now you've seen me and what makes the club special and integral to me. You can see why I've chosen to dedicate my time and effort to this place as well as the community that surrounds it. And also shout out to my mother in the crowd. Thank you, thank you.
It looks good better in the pictures. I think that's enough. One more time for Jack Thomas. It was amazing. And as a previous speaker mentioned, Senator Nick Collins cannot be here today. He's got an emergency up at the Senate. I know his mom and dad are here. What are the Collinses? Mr. and Mrs. Collins, a big round of applause for the Senator's parents. But I did want to bring up the Senator's Chief of Staff, Haley Dillon Walsh, to come up and present a citation on behalf of the Senator to Jack.
Thank you. This citation is for Jack. Those speeches always make me cry every year, so your mom must be so proud. That's so awesome. Let it be known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Jack Thomas in recognition of being awarded the Boys and Girls Club Youth of the Year Award. Thank you. And while I won't be saying any jokes from Senator Collins' behalf, he invites you all to join him on Sunday at the St. Patrick's Day breakfast, or you can watch it live on Nessun or Neckin and BNN, starting at 9:30. Thank you.
I couldn't help but think during Jack's remarks, yes, all these events that we get to go to, we're fortunate to go to and be part of this great network of the city and so many wonderful organizations, including the Boys and Girls Clubs, that you get to hear from so many young people, and to put things in perspective. I think the older we get, sometimes we think the world ends when we end, but the future is indeed, as Robert said, is indeed bright. I was at an event yesterday with the mayor, and she was introduced by a Northeastern student from Alston, Brighton. I just got back from a medical brigade in Ecuador and Guatemala. People like Katie yesterday and Jack today, and I say my own son, Danny Boy Tobin from West Roxbury, and the future is indeed bright in the city of Boston. So a big round of applause for all the young people who are on here today who are going to make this city move forward. And I also want to, you were all so great and generous to be here at this luncheon, this annual luncheon, and we couldn't do this obviously without you in the room. But it's also your respective tables and your organizations. But I also want to thank our event sponsors and our lead sponsors. From Massport, Elena Capola, the Massport table. Massport, keeping our trains and planes moving. From P&C Gillette, Kara Buckley, P&G Gillette, and Related Beal, and my friend Aisha Miller over here. All right, so here's the portion of where we attempt some jokes and get ready for Sunday. This always, sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. We'll take a shot at it, and just be generous with your laugh. You've been generous in your dollars to the Southie Boys and Girls Club. Be generous with your laughter. These are not professionals. We do have a professional coming up later. But this is also, this is a test. A gentleman walks into a wake, and he says to the grieving widow and her family, "May I say a word?" And the widow says, "Of course." And he stands up and he says, "Plethora." And he sits down, and the widow says, "Thank you, that means a lot." All right, we got some smart people here. What am I working with here? That was 8 years at Catholic Memorial, 9 years at UMass Boston. Stay in school, Jack. There's a bartender cleaning up after a long shift. He's at the bar and he's wiping down. The bar is completely empty, and can't wait to go home, and he's wiping down the bar, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he hears, can I get a cold beer? He looks around, he says, who is that? And he hears, it's Invisible Barack Obama. And he says, Mr. President, why are you invisible? He says, I was running on the beach and came across a genie. She gave me 3 wishes. And the bartender says, what was the first wish, Invisible Barack Obama? And he says, I wanted to meet a nice woman. Smart, beautiful, educated. Met Michelle. Wish number 1 granted. And wish number 2 is become a 2-term president of the United States. Do a great job. And the bartender said, well, that doesn't really describe why you're invisible, Barack Obama. What was wish number 3? And he said, I said, let me be clear. All right. I know he was the president some time ago. You have to go back in the Wayback Machine for some of these. That segues nicely into someone who's been very clear. And her intentions not only on the Boston City Council, but also is our mayor of Boston, and someone who looks at the city through the eyes of a young mom. And something we haven't experienced, a mayor for some time with small kids and understanding the challenges that our kids go through every day, not just in school, but in their social lives and organizations, and how we raise them so they become the leaders of this great city. So it is really my pleasure. Someone who we were both former city councilors. One's up here telling stupid jokes, and one's now the mayor of Boston. So, ladies and gentlemen, a big South Boston welcome to our mayor, Mayor Michelle Wu.
Don't worry, I'll have some very stupid jokes too. Thank you all so much for being here and for your generosity in supporting some of the most important infrastructure that we have in the city of Boston in our Boys and Girls Clubs. I know there are, each and every table probably has some very strong memories of ways in which the Edgerley South Boston Boys and Girls Club has shaped your life, and we are so lucky as a city to have leaders like Jack and all of his friends and peers at the Boys and Girls Club there to make sure that the doors are wide open for the next generation. So congratulations, great job, Mom, and thank you to everyone. It's an honor to be here with this illustrious head table of former counselors, executive director, CEO, counselor, rep, father, council president. I every single year get kind of refocused and re-humbled in the job of doing this when we have to get up here and tell some jokes. There's a lot that's on our plates, and we're trying to come at it from every possible angle. You might have heard that the governor is asking the governor's council to sign off on a plan to wipe out convictions for possession of pot, right, criminal justice reform. In that spirit, today, I am announcing the city of Boston will be officially pardoning Dorchester Street for possession of potholes. Okay, all right, we're warming up. Okay, I am so not funny that I was asking my family for advice a couple days ago, and my 6-year-old tossed in this one. I promised him I would try it out. No joke on that. This came from my 6-year-old. What did the street light say to the car? Don't look, I'm changing. Okay. All right, he got some claps. Speaking of our law enforcement efforts, we are very proud that as a city, we are doing big things and recently settled a collective bargaining contract for our police officers across the bargaining table. It set a new national precedent, and our officers overwhelmingly voted to ratify the contract to hold themselves to the highest standards of accountability. The contract gets rid of arbitration as a loophole for officers who have committed the most serious of crimes: murder, armed robbery, and putting out space savers when there's half an inch of snow. They also made a push for investing in more safety equipment for officers. Kevlar pants was the big push, so that they could stand up to the dangerous risk across the city of playground slides. Okay. All right, I'm going to cut it there. I got a lot of work to do before Sunday. It's such a blessing to represent the city and to be in a community of folks who are generous in every possible way, to have a great team to work alongside. Actually, I'm glancing around the room. I'm not sure that State Rep Dan Hunt got recognized earlier, but he is in the house as well. Thank you for your leadership. And again, to the Boys and Girls Club, we see you in the City of Boston almost as another city department. You are there for us, for our young people. You're there for us for every generation, whether it is from swim and gym or to the ways in which you're there for families when they need help the most, and then you end up finding ways to wrap around all the city services that we're trying to make available. So congratulations to all. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and I'll see you a lot over the next couple of days.
One more time for our mayor. This couple has been married for a long time, and they're just not feeling it anymore. So they go to see a marriage counselor, a therapist, and they're sitting there, and you know, the therapist is getting nowhere. And you know, the husband is just not responding. And the therapist said, you know, the 30 years of doing this, I've never met somebody, you know, as stubborn as you. And so the therapist decides just to get up, come across the room, and he grabs the wife in an embrace, and he kisses her on the mouth for 30 straight seconds. And he said, see, that's what she needs, twice a week. And the gentleman takes out his phone, he says, I can have her here on Tuesdays and Fridays. All right, well, we're testing the crowd, you know. This usually works better at 11 o'clock rather than noon. A husband and wife are out taking a walk, and the wife trips and falls off a curb, and it's really serious. And so the husband calls 911. They said, what's the nature of the emergency? He says, I'm out for a walk with my wife, and she's fallen off a curb, and I think she's broken her ankle. She's going to need an ambulance. And the dispatcher says, what's the address? And he says, 14 Eucalyptus Drive. And the dispatcher says, can you spell that? And he said, would it be easier if I carried over to Oak Street? All right, let's see. We'll bring that one back next year. That's a good one. Do you realize that for the 3 days leading up to this, I go into a sheer panic about what jokes I can tell, what jokes I told before, and you know what jokes are appropriate, so I still have a job at 1:30. It is now my pleasure. I'm going to make this announcement at the outset. I think I've been doing this for 9 years in a row. Those 2 years we won't talk about notwithstanding. It's been such a great honor. Last year, it's like being a traffic cop. You try and run things on time, things can happen. It's kind of live entertainment, right? And so I forgot to introduce the city council president, Ed Flynn at the time. Ed Flynn was from South Boston. And I was mortified, and I am so sorry. So, Ed, you usually have 3 minutes. Today you have 6. So, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for the District City Council and the former City Council President, and a man with extraordinary legacy in this city through his family, Ed Flynn.
Thank you, John. It's an honor to be with you and my colleagues at the head table, and I know they were recognized, and I want to again recognize my city council colleagues that are here, including the city council president, Lucy Louis-Jean, John Fitzgerald, who was mentioned, I believe Erin Murphy as well, certainly the mayor of the city, Michelle Wu. And my other colleagues, David Beal and Senator Nick Collins, we were with Congressman Lynch earlier, actually, at the South Boston Boys and Girls Club, and we're talking to some of the dedicated professional staff there as well. So we want to thank the Boys and Girls Club for the incredible role they play in our community, in our neighborhood. I had the privilege when I was young to go to the Boys and Girls Club, the Boys Club, as it was called back then. And it was really a way to meet so many different people and learn about your neighborhood and learn different values that the Boys Club taught us about. So, and I know that those are the values Jack has learned as well. So Jack, congratulations, we're very proud of you. I also wanted to highlight that the Boys Club today, South Boston Boys and Girls Club today, and I live on the same street as the Boys Club. I live on F Street. The Boys and Girls Club is about 45% youth of color throughout all of South Boston, including the public housing development. So the role the Boys Club plays in this community is exceptional, and want to highlight that fact. But also I want to recognize a gentleman that's in the audience that is really an unsung hero in South Boston that's done so much work in this community, especially for the Boys and Girls Club, prominent businessman Kevin Phelan. Kevin. And I wasn't going to tell any jokes today, but my friend and kind of mentor as well, Senator Jack Hart, called me up over the weekend and said, Ed, you should give it a try. And I said, Jack, I'm not very funny. He said, no, I'll give it a try. But I decided not to tell a joke. But we're celebrating Evacuation Day. We're celebrating St. Patrick's Day. And if it enables us to celebrate the incredible role of the Irish in Boston, also the incredible role Evacuation Day of George Washington being at the Dorchester Heights, and also the final point I wanted to make, it forces us all to take down our Christmas decorations as well. That's all I have for you. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
One more time for Eddie Flynn. I also want to recognize over here, I would not be at this breakfast. I remember years ago when this luncheon, was at Pier 4, years and years ago when I was a city councilor, and I was sitting with my father-in-law, Joe Plunker. Joe was here, who's a club kid and a huge supporter of the Boys and Girls Club, and made it such a huge difference in his life over the years. But I got called out of the crowd to tell a joke by Jack Hart, who I think you might have been the rep then, or it might have been, I don't know how long ago it was, but it was a long time ago, and I was absolutely petrified. Probably a little less so than I am right now. But I just want to acknowledge Jack and all his contributions to our city and to our state. And I mentioned my father-in-law is also with my beautiful wife Kate is here, and I gotta admit I was out pretty late a couple of months ago, and I was out all day, and I came home and Kate said, you are drunk. And I said, I am not drunk. And she said, you are drunk. And I said, I am not drunk. And she said, can you tell the time? So I walked up to the clock and I said, I'm not drunk. That's getting a little better as we get on. Gentleman, Patrick, gets some bad news. He goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, I'm afraid you have just 24 hours to live, so you have to get your affairs in order. So Patrick goes home and tells his wife, and they're grieving, so they get into bed, and Patrick nudges his wife about an hour in and says, honey, I only have 23 hours to live. Do you think we could make love one last time before I die? She said, of course, Patrick. So they make passionate love, and fall asleep, and a couple of hours later, he says, honey, I've only got 16 hours to live. Do you think we could make love one more time? She says, okay, Patrick, yeah, sure. And so, 9 hours, he says, honey, one more time. She says, okay, Patrick, okay, let's do this one more time. And so, about an hour left, he says, honey, and she turns over and she says, Patrick, I have to get up in the morning and you don't. All right? I now want to bring up someone who gets up every morning to represent the fine folks of South Boston. He's in his third term as a state representative representing South Boston. He does a wonderful job. He's a club kid. He knows what this is all about, and he knows his community better than anybody. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our state representative, David Beal.
Thank you for that very kind introduction. First, just huge congratulations to Jack. You did a great job up here. It's scary. Anybody up here will tell you it's scary. You did a great job. And we look forward to seeing what you do next. And I know he was already recognized earlier today, but I do want to give a shout out to my good friend, Rep. Dan Hunt, who does great work with the club, South Boston and Dorchester up at the State House with us. Thank you for your leadership in supporting clubs, not just in South Boston, but across Boston. Thank you. And I know she was mentioned earlier today, and I know she's not here, but Patty McCormick does a great job for this every year. Prior to becoming an elected official, I was an advisory board member at the South Boston Boys and Girls Club, and the work that Patty and Jerry Verbickas, who is chair of this event every year, put in to make this a success and support the club's just outstanding, and they're the reason that I'm standing here today. So let's give them a round of applause. And in keeping with the spirit of tradition, we will try out a joke or two. I haven't had a lot of practice. My wife and I just welcomed home our first child, so be gentle. But, we're celebrating St. Patrick's Day, and there's a lot of great things about that. And one of my favorite is Irish soda bread. My mom makes a great Irish soda bread, and Annie's Bakery right down the street on L Street makes a fantastic loaf. So an Englishman and an Irishman go into Annie's Bakery. The Englishman steals 3 buns and puts them into his pocket and leaves. He turns to the Irishman and brags, "Did you see that display of skill? The owner and managers didn't even see me." The Irishman looked at him and replied, "That's just simple thievery. I'll show you how to do it the honest way and get the exact same results." The Irishman walks in, goes over to the counter, and calls the owner of the bakery over and asks if he'd like to see a magic trick. The owner's intrigued, so he said, "Yeah, sure, let's see what you got." The Irishman asked for a bun and then ate it. Asked 2 more times for a bun, eating it each time. Afterwards, the owner's a little confused. He's like, "Okay, what gives? What's the magic trick?" The Irishman points over to his friend the Englishman and says, "Look in my friend's pockets and you'll find exactly what you're looking for." We all know in the city of Boston, and especially here in South Boston, that it's a struggle to find a parking spot. It just is. The secret's out on God's country. People want to live here. So an Irishman on a cold, dark, rainy night is trying to find a parking spot in South Boston. "Lord," he prayed, I just can't stand this. If you open up a space for me, I swear I'll give up the Guinness and I'll go to Mass every day and twice on Sunday." Suddenly, the rain stopped, the clouds parted, and light shone down on an empty parking spot. Without hesitation, the Irishman replied, "Never mind, I found one." All right, we got some work to do for Sunday. You've been great. Thank you for your support of the club. And happy St. Patrick's Day, happy Evacuation Day.
All right, David, you got 48 hours. It's going to be fine. No problem. Guy calls a law firm and person answers the phone and says, Johnson, Johnson, Johnson & Johnson. And he says, hello, may I speak with Mr. Johnson, please? And he said, oh, Mr. Johnson's with a client. He said, well, can I speak with Mr. Johnson, please? He said, Mr. Johnson's on vacation with his family. He said, can I speak with Mr. Johnson? And he said, Mr. Johnson's at lunch. He said, okay, may I speak with Mr. Johnson? And he said, speaking. All right, those are David Beal's jokes that he left up here. I'm going to, I make that mistake every year. All right, a guy goes to the doctor and he says, doctor, I've been thinking about this long and hard. I've thinking about it for a long time, and I've decided I'd like to be castrated. And the doctor says, I've been a doctor for 40 years, nobody's ever requested this. And he says, I've made up my mind. And the doctor says, why don't you go home and think about it for a little bit. Think about it for 24 hours and come back and see me. Guy comes back the next day, he says, doctor, I've never been more determined than ever. I've decided I'd like to be castrated. And the doctor says, okay. Has him sign a couple of forms, wheels him into pre-op. Surgery test takes 3 hours, and a few hours after that, the gentleman wakes up laying on his bed, groggy, bandages covering him from side to side. And he looks over to his left, and there's a guy sitting up, reading the Herald, having a Dunkin' Donuts cup of coffee. And the gentleman in bed said, what did you have done? And the guy said, I had a vasectomy. And the guy says, that's the word. Okay. Now this is a great lead into our next speaker. This is someone who is represented only in her second term as a Boston City Councilor, citywide, and has done such a remarkable job so early on, and has attained the leadership position of City Council President, which is a very, as Eddie can attest to, is a very difficult thing. There's only 13 people, but it's very difficult to get to that magic number of 7, and she was able to accomplish that. And I actually had the occasion to be with her socially last week across the street, and said, if we have some time, she'd love to come up and say a couple of words and perhaps try out some material in advance of Sunday. So, ladies and gentlemen, a big South Boston welcome to our citywide councilor, the president of the Boston City Council, Russi Louisiane.
Okay, so I'm going to start off by saying that we were hanging out at Laugh Boston, and he said, maybe tell a few jokes, but you never confirmed, okay? So don't expect too much funny today, everyone. But I'm Ruti Lujan, the president of the Boston City Council, and I'm just really happy to be here with everyone. I want to just thank Josh for all of the work that you do for the club, the Edgerley Families Club of South Boston, and Jack, congratulations on being named the Youth of the Year. I had the pleasure earlier this week of actually hosting the Youth of the Year from the Mattapan Boys and Girls Club. And when I looked at her, I instantly saw that just our young people are the future and are really helping to build out this city. Her name is Ryan, and I'm just so grateful for the work that folks like Robert and Josh and Rick and all of our leaders of the Boys and Girls Club are doing around the city. So congratulations to all of your hard work. Everyone elevated Patty McCormick and the incredible work that she does. And so I just think that it's so important for us to remember that our biggest investment is our young people. So congratulations to everyone. Speaking of congratulations, I am now 3 months into being president of the Boston City Council, and I'm here with the past president of the City Council and Councilor Fitzgerald. So normally, 3 months into being president of the Boston City Council, a lot of people in the beginning were like, congratulations. They say congratulations. Got a few cards from former city councilors, like former City Councilor John Tobin, that said condolences, actually. So that's my joke. I'm going to workshop some more. And I'll be back next year with more. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Russi. That was awesome. All right, who's ready for some real comedy? I said, who's ready for some real comedy? With us, the amateurs up here. It is, as you know, at this luncheon, those of you who've been here for many, many years, you're in for a real treat. We always end this luncheon with a few minutes of comedy from a true professional, and we are great. We've had so many great names here over the years who have closed off this luncheon with some real laughs. This gentleman is a great friend of mine. He's a native of Dedham and graduated from Xaverian in 1987, same year I graduated from Catholic Memorial. He is a terrific talent, and ladies and gentlemen, you're going to love him. A big South Boston Boys and Girls Club welcome to Mr. Mark Riley.
Thank you, John. This is a pleasure to be here, and I've never been worried about following so many fantastic jokes. And if you people don't laugh at my stuff, I'm quitting comedy, I'll tell you that. No, it's very cool to be here. I won't make fun of John because he books me, and he's the reason why I'm getting paid today. But everyone else, no. Mayor Wu left, which is unfortunate. I was going to tell her the traffic was bad, so I ended up taking the bike lanes in, and I wasn't on a bike. I gently bumped 3 bikes off. Well, one was an electric scooter, but screw him, he should have been on the sidewalk. Okay, and I noticed, I want to point out someone who's here I didn't realize. Ken Quigley, who is the former president of my alma mater, is here and was my academic advisor. I went to, it's a very prestigious school in the Boston area, Curry College, and very tough to get into when it's locked. So I want to thank him. He wanted me to go to law school, but I end up telling jokes for a living. So, Jack, if you're looking for a good school, Curry's not it. Now, I originated in West Roxbury, where John is from, but I married into Southie years ago. Took me about a month to pass the parallel parking test. And when I finally did, I lived there for about 10 years. My ex-wife now, I won't talk about her because when I do, it costs me money. But when I first moved in, my brother-in-law at the time said, he invited me, he said, I got a place down the Cape, do you want to come down? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Where is it, Falmouth? He said, no. I said, Hyannis? He said, no. I go, Orleans? He said, no. I go, where is this place? And he goes, it's in Plymouth. And I said, Plymouth? He goes, yeah. I go, that ain't the Cape. He goes, yeah, it is. I go, you don't even go over a bridge. And he said, yeah, we do, the one on Morrissey Boulevard. And I don't know if you know what they have down there, but they have this little slice of heaven called Ellis Haven. It's a trailer park. Yeah, picture 200 people from Southie in a trailer park. What could go wrong? Now, luckily, he had money, so he had a double wide. And didn't expect a camping joke from a city kid, but that's all right. I remember, we talked about the Space Savers. I remember when we did that, and I remember our illustrious Mayor Menino, God rest his soul, sent a truck around one time to collect all our stuff. And he took our folding chairs and the cones. I see some heads shaking, right? The coffee tables. I don't know how he fit the bunk bed I had out there in my car. But too bad one of my kids was still sleeping. If they were all home runs, I wouldn't be here at the Omni at 1 o'clock, okay? So, I was going to offer my writing skills to some of you, but you might not want them now, so that's all right. But before I actually got into comedy, I was a pro hockey referee. That's what I did for a living for 5 years. And I know South Boston, Boston itself is a huge hockey town. Matter of fact, Brendan Flynn is here, a good friend of mine who played in the East Coast League in Richmond. And I remember the game I refereed him. He came up to me before the game, we were talking Southie, and he figured he'd get an assist on every goal, whether he was on the ice or not. And instead, he got slashed in the hand, and I said, you know, suck it up. That wasn't that bad. Turns out he broke his wrist, and I avoided him for 2 years, so he's here today. There's no joke there. I just wanted to point him out and let him know I still feel bad about that. But I refereed pro for 5 years. I got hired by the NHL, and then fired a week later. You're not supposed to laugh at that part. That's the pain part. Everyone asks why. It's because I'm American. That's why. They didn't tell me that I would have sued them, but that's why. It's all about Canada and the Canadians. Now, I don't know if we have any Canadian dignitaries here or anyone from Canada. Okay, good, because I kind of hate Canada, I'll be honest with you. Outside of hockey, they've offered nothing to the world. And their bacon, it's ham. So I did the NHL thing, happened, and I decided to do college hockey. And I realized very quickly college players and pro players are very different. First game I was doing it was in Quinnipiac University down in Connecticut. And a kid hit a kid in the corner with a stick pretty good, slashed him pretty good. So I blew the whistle, I called him over, and I said, hey pal, don't be hitting people with your stick like that. And his answer to me was, go F yourself. Yeah. So I let him go. I figured I'll wait, I'll get my chance. I didn't have to wait that long. Next shift, he's out in the ice in front of the net. He got hit in the back with a cross check so hard his neck snapped, he went flying. Major penalty all day. I got nothing. So the whistle blows, he come right over me. Why do you call it, ref? Why do you call it? I said, whoa, pal, sorry, man. I must have missed it because I was too busy in the corner effing myself. Dominance established right there. You know, if you laughed at some of that stuff and you didn't find that funny, come on. So, my daughter played hockey. Now, I don't know if you have any kids who play hockey. If you do, raise your hand if you have a kid who plays hockey. Okay. The worst thing you have to buy now, when I was growing up, skates were expensive, right? But everything else was like $10. Now, the worst thing you have to buy is a stick. A hockey stick. $400 for a good hockey stick. Yeah, $400. So I had a hard, fast rule for my daughter. I told her that I wouldn't spend more than $75 on a stick till she got to high school. And I did really good with it. I'd go online, I'd find last year's models, clearance models. One year she shot lefty. And it made her a better player, okay? And she had a wicked backhand that year. So she gets to high school, and she says, Dad, you're going to buy me a nice stick? I said, that's right, let's go. And we went to a place up in Burlington that used to be there called the Bauer Store. And we went in, and it was actually pretty cool. You can basically custom make your stick now, unlike back in the day, right? Blade, shaft, flex, the whole thing. So she picks this stick out, $400. And while we're getting it, there's a guy there buying 2 of them for a 7-year-old. 2 $400 sticks for a 7-year-old. Yeah, you ever have that moment where thoughts come in your head and before you can kick them around, they come shooting out? That was me at the Bauer Store. I looked at the guy, and I said, you're buying 2 of these? He goes, yeah. I go, what the hell is wrong with you? And this was his answer. I have to buy 2 in case the first one breaks. Yeah, my daughter was like, what the hell is wrong with you? And then he started. He's on a AAA, Tier 1, elite. I stopped listening. He finished. I said, dude, look at your kid. He's on that team because your check cleared. And that hit a chord a little too close with some of you right there. I ended up having to fight him. My daughter kicked the crap out of his son. It was awesome. Teach him to run his mouth. But so I actually have a day job, and some of you might be thinking, good. And if you are, but I do it for the insurance. I am a 4th and 5th grade Montessori teacher. Yeah, I shape and mold young minds. That should scare you. I get into it by subbing. I was substituting until they put me in a middle school science class. Middle school, no business being in there, none. One of the kids stood up, he goes, Mr. Riley, what's DNA? I was like, something you don't want to leave behind at a crime scene. Scores in Lynn, they were like, Dad, we know that. Don't shake your head at that. That's funny, all right? So so the kids wanted to get a class pet. That's what they were all about, a class pet. I don't know, do we have any teachers here that might be, well, I suppose you're working today. I had a teacher professional day. At least that's what I called it. And, well, I am making money. So, I am making money, right? If I'm not, then I think I've satisfied the time requirement, and I'm going to go home and question my life decisions. But they wanted to get a class pet, so we let them write down suggestions on note cards, pass them in. And we got the basics. We got the bird, bunny, fish. One of them wrote elephant. Now, I know what you're thinking. You can't get an elephant for class pet. They're big, they're messy, they're expensive, they're tough to import. I looked into it. That's not why you can't get an elephant for class pet. You can't get an elephant for class pet because an elephant eats peanuts. Yeah, and every other kid these days is allergic to the peanuts. When I was a kid growing up, no one was allergic to anything. Nothing. If they were kind of weird. You didn't play with them. Now it's out of control. You can't drive by a school with an open jar. They'll pull you right over. I walk around school with EpiPens strapped to my legs. Call myself Sheriff Epi. I just wait. I'm waiting. If a kid starts wheezing, screw it. I stab him in the neck. Because you can never be too careful. That's all I'm saying. Jack, you're not allergic to peanuts, are you? All right. What? Cats. Me too. Good. Let's get rid of them. I'm kidding. I'm a dog guy. I actually have 2 Yorkies. Yeah, 2 little Yorkies. And they're, I bought a puppy, a Yorkie puppy. So I'm engaged again, and my fiance had a Yorkie, 10-year-old, and so I bought a puppy, which was absolutely brilliant. And right after, what did she buy for him? Matching sweaters. Yeah. Matching. So I'm walking 2 Yorkies in matching sweaters now. Like, I don't look unmanly enough. I had to change that joke for the crowd right there. You know what? My buddy asked me what I'm going to feed the dog, the puppy, and I said I'm going to feed him farmer's dog like I feed the other one. He said, no, you gotta try this new dog food out. It's a vegan dog food. Yeah, I asked him. I said, did you just hear what you said? Vegan dog food? Can you imagine if I gave this to my puppy? He'd be looking at me like, my ancestors chased and ate rats. Now I'm on an all-plant diet. Like, it isn't hard enough for me to go to the dog park in this sweater. Now they're going to find out I'm a vegan, too? I'm going to get my ass kicked. But I digress. My fiance, when I first met her a couple of years ago, I actually live in Medfield now. She lives in Medfield, and it's a great town, a little expensive. Not so much to buy, but everywhere is expensive now. But when I moved there, I had a Ford Focus, and I wore a Columbia winter jacket. And apparently, you can't park at Starbucks with that. So I ended up having a BMW and a Canadian Goose coat. And now they allow me to park at Starbucks. And I'm about a month away from getting that thing repoed. The coat, not the BMW. That's about 3 months away. But she introduced me to something when I first got together with her that I'd never heard of before, and now I can't get enough of. Charcuterie. If I didn't have a cold, it would sound better. Charcuterie. Yeah, I didn't know what it was. Charcuterie. Yeah, meat cheese trays. That's it. Meat cheese trays. It has a fun name. I can't stop saying it now. I'm ordering it at the drive-thru at Dunkin'. Yeah, medium cold brew black and a charcuterie board, please. And the kid's always like, oh, all right, bacon, egg, and cheese on a croissant. Screw you. I started following this woman on Instagram. She's like the charcuterie queen, right? She makes these giant charcuterie boards. And you know what she puts on it? Meat roses. Roses made out of salami. Are you kidding me? So I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make one of these charcuterie boards, and I'm going to put some meat roses on and impress my girl. Didn't come out quite the way I hoped. Wasn't using salami. I was using bologna. Kind of looked like lily pads. I threw some Kraft symbols on there and some Triscuits. I call it a South Boston charcuterie. You can order them on my website if you would like. So, but I'll leave you with this. I do have a podcast now. I don't know if you mentioned it. It's called Chirping Zebras, and it's all about hockey and refereeing. And I do it with a Southie kid, Gino Binder. I don't know if some of you might know Gino Binder and his dad, Gene. You know, everyone knows Big Gene. Do you know Gene? So we're doing it, and you can check it out, and we're very funny on it. You wouldn't know it by today, but I do actually do this for a living, and you can come see me at a real show. And you have been the best audience I've ever had, seriously, at the Omni at 1 o'clock on a Friday. I mean, you guys are just electric. I've been trying to focus on, the dozen that have been laughing, but I keep seeing all the shaking heads, so on making Curry proud. Luckily, you're not still the president, which is good. I don't know what you do now, Ken, but you taught me business law, and I should have took your advice and went to law school, because I'd probably be out there as a donor and not here as a struggling comedian. And I might not, question everything on the way home. But let's just say, luckily, the Pike doesn't have toll booth anymore, because I might run my BMW into one. But I think I've satisfied the time requirement. And I wish I got the check before, because this would have been about 8 minutes shorter. I'll be honest with you right there. And I'm going right to a check casting place in Dorchester to make sure this thing doesn't get canceled. But I will leave you with this. They did a medical study recently, published in a medical journal. It's it's legit. It's not like I read it in the Herald. It's actual. I don't know. Is anyone from the Herald here? Well, who gives? Like they've never written about me, although someone might write about me tonight. Don't write a letter. Well, actually, if I get canceled, that means I'm well enough known to get canceled. So, yeah, there's no shot at that. So, anyway, they did this medical study. That's what I was talking about, right? I have ADHD and I don't take the meds on the weekends. So, on non-school days, and just stop judging, okay? But this medical study determined laughter increases blood flow to the heart by 33%, proving laughter truly is the best medicine. So normally, I would be required to collect a copay on the way out. Tonight, I'm going to be paying you. I'm Mark Riley. Thank you very much. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Mark. Nice of you to feel our pain up here. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, first of all. To run something like this takes an enormous amount of effort. We recognize Patty McCormick. Another big round of applause for Patty, all she's done historically for this luncheon. But I also want to thank Ellen Morrissey and Allison for all their hard work. A big round of applause for them pulling this together. You have all been wonderful. I want to thank you so much. I want to thank Curry's Fancy, like I said, the men and women here at the Omni who have been serving us our beautiful, delicious lunch all day. Have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day weekend and recognize what the weekend and the day is all about. Enjoy yourselves, enjoy your families, enjoy the tradition, be safe. Thanks a lot, everybody.